Well, the dinner meeting scheduled for Vice President's residence last night about the Epstein situation didn't happen at the Vice President's residence thanks to a leak from inside the Trump White House, the Trump administration, that indicated Vice President Vance planned a dinner meeting at his residence last night with White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, the Trump FBI Director, the Trump Attorney General, and the Trump Deputy Attorney General, who was Donald Trump's personal criminal defense lawyer, Todd Blanche, who is the only criminal defense lawyer in history to represent a president of the United States in a trial where that person was convicted of crimes by a jury of his peers. NBC News is reporting that no gathering occurred last night at the Vice President's residence, which was the worst possible choice of venue for such a meeting because it is so easy for the press to just stake out the driveway there to monitor the entrance of the Vice President's residence to see who's coming to dinner. NBC News is reporting that a group did meet to discuss the Epstein situation at the White House last night, which is the way that meeting should have been planned in the first place. But it's important to note that even then, even when they kept it indoors at the White House with no one able to watch who was coming and going, someone, at least one person or more, inside the Trump White House, inside the Trump administration, is leaking about these meetings, about the scheduling of these meetings, and about them actually happening. Someone in there working for Donald Trump wants news organizations to know that the Trump White House and Trump cabinet members are desperately trying to figure out how to rewrite history to erase Donald Trump's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, who said before he died in prison, "I was Donald's closest friend for 10 years. But photographs don't lie. And that is Donald Trump right there, sitting beside Ghislaine Maxwell in that photograph taken right in the middle of Ghislaine Maxwell's years of reign of terror against children who she personally molested, along with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't the one luring those children into his home. That was Ghislaine Maxwell's job. And that's what victims testified to under oath in federal court when Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted by a unanimous jury of sex trafficking. Donald Trump's own Justice Department has said Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein had over 1,000 victims, an uncountable number of victims. They don't know how many more over 1,000, how many thousands it might be. Jeffrey Epstein was raping girls on an almost daily basis for decades. And he was doing it when he said he was Donald Trump's closest friend. Today, the White House press corps once again failed to ask Donald Trump about his friendship with Ghislaine Maxwell and why his criminal defense lawyer went to Florida to question Ghislaine Maxwell before granting her a transfer to a prison that one former federal prison official calls a country club that's in Texas, close to Ghislaine Maxwell's family. A minimum security facility which does not allow sex offenders like Ghislaine Maxwell unless the President of the United States wants that particular child rapist who he used to be friends with to be given special treatment, which is what Donald Trump's old friend Ghislaine Maxwell is getting tonight from Donald Trump's Justice Department. The White House press corps got to ask exactly 6.5 questions today. They wasted those questions, of course. One was about tariffs. That, as usual, produced a non-answer. And the other questions were about Vladimir Putin, with the White House press corps foolishly pursuing questions like this. Question: is your deadline still standing for Vladimir Putin to agree to a ceasefire tomorrow, or is that fluid now? To which Donald Trump said, it's going to be up to him. Those are his words. Now, it is not news that Donald Trump does not ever make demands on Vladimir Putin. It is not news that Donald Trump does not have deadlines with Vladimir Putin. It is not news that as far as Donald Trump is concerned, when it comes to Vladimir Putin, quote, it's going to be up to him. That's the way it has always been with Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. And so White House reporters shouldn't be wasting their questions on junk like that. It has always been up to Vladimir Putin. When Donald Trump asked Vladimir Putin publicly during the 2016 presidential campaign to please hack Hillary Clinton's emails, Donald Trump knew it was going to be up to him. It was going to be up to Vladimir Putin. And Vladimir Putin immediately delivered. At an idiotic Trump campaign rally in 2016, Donald Trump said, "Russia, if you're listening," and then publicly begged Russian spies and Russian hackers and Russian government officials and Vladimir Putin to obtain and release Hillary Clinton's emails. And they did. Nothing like that can possibly happen in Russia without Vladimir Putin deciding that it should happen. 12 Russian officials were indicted in the United States for that theft and for their interference in the presidential election, interference that could only have been ordered by Vladimir Putin. And so Donald Trump's real answer about Vladimir Putin every time, no matter what question you're asking, is always going to be, it's going to be up to him. The White House press corps' questions revealed absolutely nothing today. Nothing. But White House reporters did exactly what Donald Trump wanted them to do this time. Exactly. They didn't speak a word about his friends Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Not one reporter brought them up. Today, another victim's lawyer, Robert Glassman, filed a letter concerning the Trump Justice Department's request to unseal the Epstein and Maxwell grand jury testimony. Robert Glassman represents a victim who testified in Ghislaine Maxwell's trial under a pseudonym, as other witnesses did, to protect privacy. That victim, known in the courtroom as Jane, testified that she met Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein while at a summer camp when she was 14 years old. Yes. 14 years old. That was the entry age for many of Ghislaine Maxwell's victims and Jeffrey Epstein's victims. Here is some of Jane's testimony. When you were 14 years old and there were times where you were alone with Maxwell and Epstein, what kinds of sexual conduct would occur during those incidents? Answer: it would be them leading me to a massage table and showing me how Jeffrey likes to be massaged. Question: who would tell you how Jeffrey likes to be massaged? Answer: Ghislaine and Jeffrey. Question: how did he like to be massaged? Answer: like he liked very hard, like rubbing his shoulders really hard, and like twisting his nipples hard, and rubbing his feet hard, and like his head. Who would give you instructions? Answer: Ghislaine and Jeffrey. What kind of instructions would they give you? Answer: just showing me, what he likes, what men like, what women like, sort of touching on breasts and touching his penis. Question: what was Maxwell's demeanor like during these incidents? Answer: I would say that it seemed very casual, like it was very normal, like it was not a big deal. Question: and when she behaved like that, how did that make you feel? Answer: well, it made me feel confused because that did not feel normal to me. I'd never seen anything like this or felt any of this, and it was very embarrassing. It's all those mixed emotions. When you're 14, you have no idea what's going on. Question: during these incidents that we've been discussing, did Epstein touch your body? Answer: yes. Question: where did Epstein touch your body? Answer: he would touch my breasts, he would touch my vagina. Question: during these incidents we've been discussing, when you were 14, did you touch Epstein's body? Answer: yes. Question: where did you touch his body? Answer: everywhere. Question: during these incidents, did Maxwell ever touch your body? Yes. Question: where would she touch you? Answer: I would say mainly my breasts. The prosecutor at Ghislaine Maxwell's sentencing hearing said Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, quote, were predators together. They molested kids together. And Donald Trump is now publicly entertaining the possibility of pardoning his old friend in that photograph, Ghislaine Maxwell. Donald Trump has been offered numerous opportunities to say that he would not do that, to say that he would not pardon a child molester like Ghislaine Maxwell, like his friend Ghislaine Maxwell. And Donald Trump has refused to say that. Donald Trump is publicly holding his pardon power over Ghislaine Maxwell so that she knows very clearly that she must never say anything negative about Donald Trump as she continues to hope for a pardon or an elimination of the remainder of her sentence. In the past, Donald Trump has said something about Ghislaine Maxwell that he has never said about any of her victims, like Jane, who you just heard from. About Ghislaine Maxwell only, Donald Trump said, "I wish her well." Did Donald Trump send his criminal defense lawyer to Ghislaine Maxwell to personally wish her well? The Democrats in the House of Representatives who support a subpoena to the Justice Department to obtain the Epstein files are also urging a subpoena for the testimony of Alex Acosta, who served as the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, who agreed to a plea bargain with Jeffrey Epstein the first time Jeffrey Epstein faced federal charges that did not even require Epstein to serve time in prison. That was the result of the plea bargain. No real time in prison. He was allowed to leave a minimum security facility every day, the place where he slept at night. He was allowed to leave there during his short service of that sentence to go to his office in Florida nearly every day. Jeffrey Epstein continued raping children after that plea bargain that Alex Acosta arranged for him. Alex Acosta then went on to serve as Donald Trump's first Secretary of Labor during the first Trump presidency. Alex Acosta's name is conspicuously absent from the list of former Justice Department officials, including Republican officials, whose testimony has been subpoenaed by the House of Representatives. But no White House reporter has bothered to ask Donald Trump what he thinks of his friend Alex Acosta making such an easy plea bargain deal with his friend Jeffrey Epstein.